Hi everyone, I hope you're doing super well. Today we are going to do some propagation and repotting of my beautiful Philodendron Dean McDowell. So let's get started. So this is the Philodendron Dean McDowell. It is a crawling philodendron plant, which means that it crawls along the ground floor, the forest floor out in nature. Unlike most philodendron, which tend to climb up trees, including some of our more common ones like the heartleaf philodendron, the Philodendron hederaceum. But this one just likes the ground, so that is why it's inside this vertical pot. What I love about this plant, like with other plants, is its foliage. Those big, beautiful, heart-shaped leaves that actually have a splash of pink in them. When they first emerge, it's that beautiful light pink veining that goes up around them, up and down, and then off to the sides as well, that eventually transitions over into a greener color. This plant I've had for, I think about 7 or 8 months now. My buddy Todd gave me this plant, and I absolutely love it. I wanted one for a long time. I had already had to repot it once before, but now because of the way that it's growing, you can already see a new growth point that's coming out right now. That little red part right there, that's where a new leaf will eventually emerge from. I actually got to cut away some of that old skin that's around the side of it too. But I also wanted to cut off one leaf in particular, which is the first leaf this plant had. That leaf is dying, but it's also using up energy that can go into new growth and into those other leaves. But yeah, this plant is absolutely gorgeous. The Philodendron Dean McDowell, which was named by a fella in 1988, and he named it after his buddy Dean McDowell, who passed away from AIDS. So this plant is absolutely stunning, and I know a lot of plant collectors try to get their hands on it, but it's rare, at least here in Denver, to actually find one. So I'm so grateful that my buddy Todd gave me this one as a gift. So what I'm going to do first, I think, is I'm going to cut away this dying leaf and stem because it's just sucking up too much energy. And the fact is that, like I said, that energy will go into another part of the plant. So we'll leave that off to the side for now. And I'm using clean shears. I use some rubbing alcohol to make sure that there's no bacteria or anything from other plant clippings. I'm going to use some scissors, though, to chop away at this loose part here. This was actually in the way of that new leaf trying to pop out there, so I'm glad that I'll be getting rid of this, and this is just gross anyways. It's just kind of like, I don't know, like an older part of a stem. There we go. But yeah, you can see how this plant, because it's trying to crawl along, it ran out of space, and so I'm going to reuse this pot, but we're going to propagate this part right here, which has this new leaf that came out, and then also the other new leaf that's emerging here. It'll probably take about a couple of weeks. These things are really fast growers from what I've noticed. They do like high humidity and they like bright indirect sunlight, so no shocker there, just like any other philodendron. But yeah, this is a hybrid species. This is a cross between the Philodendron gloriosum, which I have one of, and I actually have to propagate that soon because that thing's growing out of control, and the Philodendron passasanum, which I do not have, but that is a lovely plant too. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for the part where there are the growth nodes, which are right under here. And earlier today, I actually repotted a cutting that I made of another crawling philodendron, which is a Philodendron plowmanii. In that cutting, I initially didn't even water propagate it. What I did was I just cut it from where it had some roots, and then I just put it in soil and watered it frequently for the first month and a half, 2 months, just to make sure that new roots would grow out. And man, oh man, I didn't realize until I had to repot it this evening how many roots it had grown. Now, it only had maybe like 2 small roots when it first started, but man, that thing just ballooned. The actual roots were growing out of the bottom of the pot, and that's how I knew it was time that it needed repotting. So now that we are going to propagate this guy, I'm going to cut from about right here, because that's where I see some nodes, and that's where new roots will develop. I am going to water propagate this, so that'll be something new. And I'm going to cut right about there. Sorry, new plant. Okay, there we go. I know, I'm sorry. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel off more of this stuff, and then I'm going to let this sit off to the side. That way it can callus over. And what I mean by that is that this part where I just cut will harden over. And so that'll be good. It should only take about maybe like, I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour. I'll give it an hour, 2 hours maybe. We'll see. And yeah, so I'm just going to place this guy right over yonder, like so. Sorry. I'm going to turn you into a beautiful new plant. And so what I need to do now is I need to get this guy repotted inside this same pot, and we're going to do so by loosening up its soil. And I need a knife, actually, so I can cut around the side here. And of course, what do I do? I end up grabbing like the biggest knife that there is. So I did have a little pole in here because this leaf was in an awkward position just because of how it had been growing to the side. And also, this leaf started bowing down, so I'm hoping that us repositioning it will give it new life. And another key reason why I know that this needs to be repotted is because, like I said about that Palmanii, look at those roots that have grown out of the bottom. Oh my goodness. I know this is not going to be easy to repot because they are coming out of like little holes in the bottom, and so I'm probably going to lose some roots, but we will do our best, and that's all we can do. So yeah, we have a task ahead of us. I have really, really enjoyed this plant as much as I've enjoyed one of its parent plants. As I was telling you, it's a cross between the Philodendron passasanum and the Philodendron gloriosum. The Philodendron gloriosum is one of my favorite plants because it's so beautiful with its foliage. It's all velvety, and you can really see the reason why this is actually a hybrid, a cross between the two, because of those big, beautiful heart-shaped leaves. They just look so, so stunning. And so what I'm just trying to do is gently move around the side of this pot just so I can kind of loosen up the soil and try to pull out the plant once I'm actually able to, if we're able to. Those roots are kind of making me a little bit nervous, but you know, I had to do this before, and I did it with that original Palmanii when I had to take the cutting of that one, and that was back in the fall when I did that, and that was stressful. I ended up like cutting open the bottom part of the pot just so I could get some more of its roots out without damaging them, because remember, the roots are like the brain of the plant, and the foliage is pretty much just like the face or, you know, the head. But yeah, it's kind of like a head with its brain down below. They're just used to collect sunlight and photosynthesize so they can provide and produce energy for the plant to grow. I think I'm starting to get, the thing is, I think I'm starting to get some leeway here, but the problem is that those roots, I'm trying not to like stab too far into the side because I don't want those roots to get damaged. I can't believe how quickly this thing grew. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to take this guy here, and we'll throw those in there for now because I do want to reuse some of this soil. This is good soil. Like a lot of other philodendron, what the Dean McDowell needs is a chunky aeroid mix, and that consists of a little bit of soil, some cocoa coir, some perlite, there's some charcoal in there as well, and some orchid bark. Let's see, how much more do I need to loosen this thing up? That's the problem with ordering and purchasing these longer pots, which are necessary, is that they do have all those holes in the bottom of it. Let's keep on giving this a go. Eventually, it has to come out. I mean, at least that's what I'm telling myself. I like to tell myself a lot of things, believing that it'll happen, but they end up being a little bit more difficult than they need to be. And I also know this plant's going to go probably into shock for a bit because I know that I'm going to have to rip out some of those roots, unfortunately. I think I'm getting a better handle, on the soil coming out. It's just the roots below, and I also don't want to ruin any of these beautiful leaves. Beautiful foliage here. I'm curious to know, though, in the comments, if you guys have... Ooh, it's coming out easily. If you guys have any crawling philodendron, which ones do you guys have, and which ones do you want if you don't have any, and which ones are your favorite? And do you have a Dean McDowell? And if so, what has your experience been like with it? Has it been an easy plant for you? As I'm shaking, I am getting these roots out, though. I'm surprised. Has it been an easy plant for you, or has it been tough? Because I found it to be rather easy. Ooh, I did break off one, but I also think by using this knife, I might be able to free up this other one, unless I can just get it to slide through. I'm going to try to pull gently on it. Oh my gosh, this is so stressful. Every time I've had to, I accidentally broke it. I tried though. That's okay. It's got plenty of healthy roots. It's good, it's fine. Every time though that I have had to repot a crawling philodendron, it has been so insanely stressful. Okay, I got most of that one, but we did have some casualties, but they will regrow. Philodendron are strong, hardy plants, and this one is definitely no exception, as I've learned. So what I'm going to do is get rid of those parts here, because I can reuse this soil. I'm going to try to break up this soil a bit as best as I can. I also didn't realize that the soil is kind of moist, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. Usually I like to, when I'm propagating a plant, I usually like to let it dry out first before I end up repotting it. And that's because it allows for the soil to break up easier, and will also allow me to give it a good watering afterwards. So what I'll probably end up doing with this guy is I will end up just kind of moistening the new soil that I put inside the pot. That way it can not have to be re-watered, because I don't want it to deal with any root rot, because that is, as I've told you guys millions of times, the number one killer of houseplants and plants in general, because we love our plants, but we forget that sometimes a little bit too much of something can be dangerous, and for plants, overwatering can be very deadly. But man, oh man, this has a lot of roots. Look at those things. Whew. I'll tell you. Let's see, get that one. and they've all they're so compact in there together. I wish I had a longer or bigger vertical pot, but it's okay. This will have to do, and it will, because what I'll do is I'm just going to break this up, and I'm going to tighten up the space in there so this plant can be better repositioned. The reason why plants like the Philodendron Dean McDowell and many other philodendron species, whether they're crawlers or climbers, like that chunky aroid mix, Aroid araceae being the family name of the plant species that has philodendron underneath it, as well as other ones like Monstera, Zephyprenum, Syndapsis, Rhaphodaphoras, is because they really like their roots to move around and be breathable. And so that's why it's good to have like a mixture of like cocoa coir and perlite and orchid bark in there, because it allows those roots to kind of wrap around and do their own thing. And so we've almost got a good chunk of this taken apart. Now that a majority of the soil has been loosened up, I want to show you guys this because this is kind of nuts. I know I'm going to have to sweep up here and Swiffer afterwards, but take a look as a piece of bark falls. Take a look at that root system, how massive that is, and how healthy and beautiful those roots are. I'm excited about this. Okay. So I'm going to reuse a lot of this soil. Why I even decided to just like throw down a trash bag for thinking that that'll actually make a difference is beyond me, because it did not make a difference. So I'm just putting down same soil from before, because this soil is less than a year old and the plant is already used to it. And I'm going to use some rooting hormone powder to help it establish its roots better. You see, establish new roots. Not that it really needs new roots. If anything, it needs probably a lack of roots at this point. But healthy roots and more roots lead to a healthier plant, and we like our plants healthy because healthy plants are happy plants. This is still giving me anxiety as I'm trying to like move it along. Okay. So now I'm going to try to place it back in, and hopefully all of its roots go with it, because they need to be inside here. Okay. I reckon that we have ourselves a potted up plant that'll continue to grow. And I guarantee you, I will have to repot this plant again at least once before the summer is over. And this is May right now, May 2023 when I'm doing this. So yeah, I have my work cut out for me, I guess. So yeah, just like that. And then I'll use some of the rest of this. I brought out some other soil, the same exact soil mix that I used before, but I don't even know if I'm going to have to use it, because this guy is pretty good. At least I think so. Okay, oops. Get those roots down in there, buddy. I don't want you to lose them. Oh, I guess I will have to use some new soil. That's okay. That's what it's there for. That's why it was purchased. And yeah, like I was saying, these philodendron enjoy their bright, indirect light, not so much regular, light, because that's not good for them. So that is how you end up repotting a Philodendron Dean McDowell. That propagation, I'm going to let it continue to callus over. Then I'll put it in a glass of water. Hopefully within a month or a month and a half, it'll start to pop up some new roots. But in the meantime, then it'll become its own plant. But look at how beautiful this baby is. I absolutely love it. Hey, thanks so much for watching, guys. And if you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up, like it, and subscribe to my channel for more fun and interesting and educational plant content. I'll see you guys in the next video.